Hello, my name is Debbie Horovitch, and I am very happy to welcome you today to this very special Hangout on Air. You've likely just read the article, The Ultimate Guide to Hosting Google Plus Hangouts on Air, which is embedded for you on the Forbes article of the exact same name. And we're here today to follow up on the article. If you have any questions or comments or stories, we've got a really great conversation planned for you today and a great panel of guests joining us to participate in the discussion live. And we are live today, which is September 22nd, 2014. And just to let you know, the video player, this video player where you're watching us, if you're watching on Forbes.com, was actually embedded into Forbes.com 5 weeks ago originally on August 13, 2014 when the article went live. So what's really exciting, first little bit of visual information that I have for you. So this is the ultimate guide to hosting Google Plus. Oh, let me see where I can put this on the screen. The ultimate guide to hosting Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and we are live today on September 22nd. Just the really quick case study details about this Hangout. It is something that I've been planning for 8 weeks. I would estimate just about 100 hours of planning time have been put in. It is all planned on $0 promotions. As far as the results go, we had, as of the broadcasting time, 231 yes RSVPs on this video, 62 maybe RSVPs. The celebrity name on this Hangout on Air, my guess, first and foremost, would be Forbes.com. And then we have some special guests joining us as well who will introduce themselves in a few minutes. And the audience of this Hangout on Air, if you're thinking about it as a media channel and as a sponsorship opportunity, the Hangout, the audience is actually the audience of Forbes.com plus everywhere else that the video is being embedded. This particular Hangout is a demonstration. It is a test for me of the ability to embed Hangouts on Air into established audience media channels, and it is a launch of some new services through Social Sparkle and Shine. If you want to learn more at any time during this Hangout live, you can ask us questions. You can use the event hashtag, which is event hashtag is hashtag live on Forbes. And if you want more information at any time, you can reach out to me at thesparkleagency.com/Forbes and opt in there, and I'll be sure to answer any questions for you, and I'll know where you came from, where you were watching. So, are you ready to go? You ready to get into this conversation? I think we've been waiting a really long time for this, and things are getting really exciting. So, as I mentioned, I did say use the live on Forbes hashtag. Unfortunately, because of the Q&A app, there was so much discussion about it beforehand, and we'll get into that a little bit later about exactly how the Q&A app works and whether or not people like it or don't like it. But I did make the decision for the live viewing audience on the Google Plus page, because there was over 200 yes RSVPs there. I wanted to give everyone on that page the opportunity to chat back and forth and leave suggestions. Unfortunately, though, I won't be looking at the page, so I won't be able to bring you into the live conversation. And that's just because I did not turn on the Q&A app. So the live on Forbes hashtag, just to remind you, here, hopefully, using a fresh computer. So you can always communicate with us even after the live recording, and I think it's important to note that this content lasts and will be seen and continue to exist on Forbes.com for quite some time. So before we get into the Q&A today, what I'd like to do is really discuss quite quickly who are the people that are most likely to get really big ahas and a lot of value from this discussion that we're having today, which, as I mentioned, is an accompaniment to the article written in Forbes.com. So you want to ensure on the Forbes.com article, if you've read it already before the live recording, that you have bookmarked the page. You can share it on your social channels and come back to this very video to use as your Google Plus Hangouts on Air planning guide if you're just getting started with thinking about Hangouts on Air for your business. The people that I think will get the most value from the discussion today and from the presentation are established brands and businesses. What we're talking about is Google Plus Hangouts on Air for businesses. And so, you know, obviously there's a lot of brands and businesses that invest a lot of money into social media, invest a lot of money into Google search engine optimization and Google AdWords. And Google Hangouts on Air helps you with efficiency and effectiveness of all of those. I also think that this conversation especially will be very valuable for VC tech startups and recently launched small businesses. Anyone who is a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, an expert, a speaker, really anyone who runs their business and who works in their life with passions. And you're driven by your passions, and you congregate, you gather with other people who share your interests. Hangouts on Air will be amazing for you if that describes you. Finally, a really important group that I'm so happy to be sharing this with would be traditional journalists and media personalities. Media personalities and advertising channels. So Google Plus Hangouts on Air, what I've seen is that this Google Plus live event page on Google Plus, which I set up 2 months ago, has been driving engagement on the article that I wrote for Forbes for the last 5 weeks. And so that's really valuable if you work as a journalist and you're feeling the pressure to do more audience driving from your content that is text-based content that you're creating. If there is pressure for you to be more social and more engaging with the content that you're creating, an easy way to boost that is to start embedding Google Plus Hangouts on Air and having similar conversations to what we're doing today. So what we're really going to focus on today, and oh, of course, anyone who's a digital content manager or digital content creator would love to use Hangouts on Air. It's just a part of your toolkit. If you're a social media community manager, content creator, or content manager for a website, Google Plus Hangouts on Air videos, whether they're in advance or already recorded that you'll be using in your information, they can be really valuable to you. So the point is, today, what we want to talk about is things that really you're not going to hear anywhere else. In all of my time working in Google Plus Hangouts on Air, most of the things that I talk about are pretty unique and pretty innovative, and I try and push the limits of what people can do, what people think that they can do with Hangouts on Air. So that's where my expertise is in exploring it, and I come from a media background. So let's get into introductions with our panel. I'm going to introduce myself first, just so that, you know, to break the ice for our panel so that you can all see and hear that it will be a fairly brief introduction, but I want you to know who will be on the panel, hopefully for the entire discussion today. I know that we did start just a few minutes late, and we'll be continuing a few minutes later than we had initially scheduled. So my name, as I mentioned, is Debbie Horovitch, and I am your host today. I am owner of the social media consulting firm Social Sparkle and Shine, and creator of the approach to planning Google Plus Hangouts on Air called Celebrity Hangouts on Air. I'm broadcasting today from our location sponsors, Bean Oceans, in downtown Toronto in their office. It's actually a nicer looking office than this room. And I'm really excited to participate in this particular Hangout today because of what it represents for my business and for my future as Google Plus Hangouts on Air expert and leader and hopefully thought leader in creating project management systems for Hangout on Air show production and planning. So thank you very much for joining me. I will now introduce the panel, and I'm going to start with Zara, and then Stephen, Paula, Molly, and then Michael. So just so you all know what order they'll be coming in. Let me bring in Zara, and you might be muted, you might not. Introduce yourself for us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zara Altair, and my business is Actation Now, and I help people navigate Google+. I am coming here this morning from right outside of Portland, Oregon, on the west coast of the United States. I'm really excited to be here today, Debbie, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on the panel. I love experiments, and I love your concept of broadening the scope of Hangouts on Air outside of Google Plus and the great power that they have. And I do have a Hangout on Air, and it is for business people. It's called the Midweek Zap, and it's every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'm sorry, noon Pacific time and 3 p.m. Eastern time. Anyway, thanks so much, Debbie.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll get some value from the conversation and also jump into the conversation.
I certainly shall. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Stephen. You might also need to unmute yourself. Yeah, I think you're muted still.
Yes, okay. No, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Should be. I'm
yes.
Stephen Wrench. I'm with Music and Film, and I'm talking to you from Jacksonville Beach, Florida, where it is a beautiful day, and we're in the music business, obviously, and here to talk about Google Hangouts and the advantage to artists across the universe. So,
I'm so excited that you're here with us today, Stephen. I think that you can bring so much to the conversation and so much to other people who are watching and looking for ideas and inspiration for what they can do with Hangouts on Air. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
You're quite welcome.
Hi, Paula. How are you doing? I think you're muted as well. There's a mute button at the top of your screen. Yeah. Now I can't hear you. Let me see. Are you muted? Hello? No? I'm not sure. I'm not hearing you. I think you're hearing me, but we're not hearing you. What you could try if you wanted.
Got it.
Oh.
Okay, it finally worked. It was a little temperamental, this software. I'm Paula Allen, and I am a senior technical writer at Bruce Clay Incorporated. As an internet marketing company, we're very interested in anything that can help a company brand itself online, and certainly Hangouts on Air have proven to be effective for that. So it was exciting to kind of read what you were up to, Debbie. It seemed like a new application of this tool, and I get to be part of your launch, so that's exciting too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Molly, hello. I'm so glad that you could join us today. You represent such an amazing community within Google. So, whoops, let me just get you on the screen, and then hello.
Hi, Debbie. This is Molly Youngblood Geiger, designer for you out of Jacksonville, Florida. I am also participating with the Google Partners community, where I'm an ambassador, and the Google Small Business community, where I'm an advisor. You'll see in the background I've got some banners from both of those communities. What I found really interesting about your article and why I'm excited to participate today is I myself also have a Hangouts on Air show called Hangouts in Real Life, where I feature partners, ambassadors, clients, really anyone that I think might have an interesting story to share or content. And I thank you very much for letting me participate on your Hangout today.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much for your participation and support. It has been really key through this planning process, which, as I mentioned to everyone, this is a test, this Hangout on Air. This is the first time I've tried and succeeded at writing thought leadership content for an established audience media brand. And embedded a future Google Plus Hangout on Air. So it's a phenomenal task. Michael, hi, how are you? Let me bring you into the broadcast and show you on the screen. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Michael Thomas. I'm the leader of the rock and roll group Lawless Hearts. We're based in Jacksonville, Florida, and I come from you, my home, my practice room, Jacksonville, Florida. And I feel very privileged to be a part of this hangout because in the ever-changing music industry, where social media is one of the biggest aspects of promoting your brand, it's key through these hangouts where we're going to be hosting a monthly broadcast through Google Plus, Google Hangouts of a live performance where any one of our fans from all around the world can go to lawlesshearts.com and view. And it's very, it's great to be a part of this. And we'll host a Q&A to this, and I just feel privileged to be a part of it and learn a lot more on it. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. So.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here, and I hope that you'll really get a lot from the conversation that we have, and not only get a lot, but also, share some ideas and spark some ideas in other indie music artists and maybe even some traditional music artists, if they still even exist.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right into the discussion now. One of the things that I wanted to bring up in this conversation when I was thinking about, how the engagement and the planning of this process, the planning of this Hangout has really impacted even my own knowledge about what Hangouts can do and what they can be and what sort of information people need to understand the value that they can present and bring the opportunity to a business. And so it's really interesting because in preparation for this Hangout, which is it's a big deal to me in my business, one of the things that I wanted to do in preparing was have a pre-interview with each of the guests. And at that time, I spoke with Paula Allen, who's on the Hangout with us today. And Paula expressed in the beginning of our conversation, she expressed one of the most common objections that are faced by any marketers and any business owner. If you need the support of your business partners, of your boss, of your chief marketing officer, of your chief financial officer, or even of your clients, in order to convince them to do a Google Plus Hangout on Air. So, Paula, I'm hoping that you can ask the question that
Sure.
you had, and that we can all take a stab at responding to your question.
Sure. Well, I asked the elephant in the room question, which was because Hangouts on Air is a free tool and it's actually pretty easy to use, why would you need to go to the trouble of hiring someone to help you promote it, or even yourself doing a lot of work to promote it?
Absolutely. I think that's a phenomenal question. I just want to see if anyone on the panel wants to jump in right away, or do you want, would you like me to take it first?
Debbie?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Stephen, one of the advantages that I see, which is why Lawless Hearts is on here, it's one of our groups, is there's independent artists that are all over the world that would like to engage their fans. And right now, the only way to engage them is YouTube, which is not really an engagement. This provides them the opportunity, and I've got somebody, and I've got them all over the world. And I'll take one in Finland, for instance, that is dying to appear in the U.S. This gives them a way to appear. This gives every independent artist a way to build their fan base, to grow upon it, to grow their social media, and project themselves to the world with a live event, and do questions and answers, and do a personal "here I am" world. Take a look at me.
So the for you, really, the answer to the question of why you would consider hiring a professional to help you with planning would be really just because it's not your expertise and you focus on other things?
Yes, I have a long background in the music business and not in the social business, but it has become a major ordeal, and this is basically their own television studio to the world. So,
absolutely.
There you go.
Michael or Molly, did one of you want to jump in and add to that?
Sure, absolutely. I can say for myself, being a digital agency, I come up with online strategies all the time, so I can definitely appreciate why a group would want to hire a producer for Hangouts on Air, because planning is key. Getting content together, prerequisite questions, making sure all the participants are willing and able to participate in the event are all very important key points. And sometimes it's the little details that you have to address before getting on a Hangout on Air, and that's why if you have somebody with experience, a producer who can put that together for an organization, really takes a lot of a stress factor off of the organization, where you can depend on that individual to just put a nice package together and have the participants show up. So that, for me, is one reason why I think hiring a producer for Hangouts on Air is very important.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a little to that. Well, with these Hangouts, in the state of, the music industry, it allows the band or what you're trying to promote to gain credibility and a following per se without so much overhead. You're not, that's a very, 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 very great strategy, to use, where a budget is, not really in it so much, and it allows it. I think it's a very, very great way to engage people all around the world and give them the feeling that they're there, they're a part of you. And then, in the future, once you're there, your credibility's there, you can go there. People are going to show physically in different countries when you show up to tour, because they already know of you. So,
absolutely. Zara, did you want to jump in?
Yes, I did. I think it's really important, production-wise, especially for musicians, to hire a professional producer, because especially with music and audio and all the things that go into your music production, you want the sound to be the best possible, and a producer can really help you with that. There's so many, just as we've seen today, Hangouts on Air can present some technical problems. So, especially with music live broadcast, you want to be, as an artist, focusing on your performance and your music. And the professional producer can help you, free you of that total burden of how you are seen and perceived by the outside world. I think especially for performing artists, it's a very important thing to consider. First off, right off the bat, getting a professional producer. They are going to be able to help you plan. They're going to be able to help you, when the event goes live, know what you are doing and know what to do, so you can just focus on your music. And it makes, I've seen musical HOAs with professional production and without professional production, it makes a tremendous difference. I think it's a very important point to consider. The other reason that someone other than a performing artist or a musician might want to consider a professional producer is that even in a panel like this, where there are a number of people involved, a professional producer takes the burden of production off the host. So the host can concentrate on engaging with the guests and engaging with the audience. A professional producer, someone who knows the ropes and knows how Hangouts on Air go and can help you make decisions like whether you're going to use the comment tracker and engage with your audience or not, whether you're going to use the Q&A app and what the pluses and minuses of each way of doing it are for you and for your future audience when it goes out on audio or video. So if you are inexperienced, I think it's just a very good idea to think about getting a professional producer.
Awesome, thank you. And I would tend to agree. I don't necessarily agree 100%. I don't think that you do need a professional Google Plus Hangout on-air producer for every Hangout that you do. But I think that when you're looking to have a Hangout that is a bigger and more important event, where you have required business outcomes that you need to achieve, that you want to achieve, when you hire someone outside of your organization, you then have someone who is contracted to provide you with a certain level of professionalism and a certain experience within the Hangout on Air, so that you don't have to worry about all of those small details. You don't have to worry really about learning how to be a professional Google Plus Hangout on Air producer if that's not the path that you want to take in your life. And I can tell you, as much as I enjoy being a leader and an innovator and using Google Plus Hangouts on Air, I think almost every single time I question myself. Every time that tech troubles come up, which is very, very common, you have to let them roll off your back like water off of a duck's back. And but every time tech troubles come up, I kind of have the question in my mind, why did I choose Google Plus Hangouts on Air again? So it always comes back. But I do think that the most important thing, if you're an organization, if you're a business professional and you're considering Google Plus Hangouts on Air as a part of the investment of time, energy, and in budget that you allocate on an annual basis to your marketing and communications, if you're looking at Google Plus Hangouts on Air for that, that's where I think that you really want to be sure at the beginning that you understand the value the Google Plus Hangout on Air will bring to your business. And that's the numbers, the measurement that you would use to convince and get the support of the people who hold the purse strings, whoever they may be within your life. We all have people who, even if you're self-employed, you still work for people. And so that's where I would say that the real value in having a Hangout producer with you is that it takes the Hangouts to the next level for your business and for your organization. I do recommend, though, that everyone actively use Google Plus Hangouts on Air and test it in between the times when you are working with your professional producer. They can't be there for you every time and for everything, and the more capable that you are, the more skilled and experienced that you are with Hangouts on Air, when you come to the professional producer, really the less that it will cost you to work with them. The more prepared that you are and the more that you bring to the table, the less that you require from them. Okay, so the next part of the conversation, we were really going to get into sort of the structure of the article, and if any questions came up from the readers, from you in the audience, I do want to remind you, use the hashtag #LiveOnForbes, and you know, join the conversation. So the first question that we had in the article, or the first element that we started with, was what is it really that you need to get started with for planning your Google Plus Hangouts on air. And what are the type of questions that you might want to consider for yourself when you're thinking about planning Hangouts on air in your business? What do you need to know if you're even ready to get started? I think I'll throw that to Molly first to kick us off on this question.
Sure. I think for me, one of the key points I like to bring up with my clients, or really in general anyone who's going to get on a Hangout, is planning. Find out exactly what the subject matter is going to be. Maybe come up with 3 to 5 questions that can be answered prior to the Hangout, and then an open Q&A session where other ideas can be thrown around. I think those are key points in getting a Hangout on air planned out. Also, practice. Get on there prior to the actual Hangout and just test it out. Try the Q&A app, try the applause feature. There's a lot of different apps that are associated with Hangouts that can be used. But for some businesses, it might work. But for others, it might not. So that's why I think just by getting on there and doing test HOAs, that's what I've been doing with Lawless Hearts. Just getting on there and trying different techniques and different tricks and seeing what works.
Absolutely. And I think a large part of Hangouts on air planning, I always compare it to, it's similar to planning your wedding. And you can choose when you're planning your wedding, you can choose to get married at City Hall tomorrow with very little planning and very little investment, and not too much energy or attention to having hundreds of guests at the event. Or you can have the biggest event, that is like the Kim Kardashian, Kanye West wedding, where you plan down to every single small detail. I think, for myself, that really what you need to get started, or for me, one of the main starting points in the planning when you know that you're making a commitment, is starting with the date. And it's similar to planning your wedding when you book your location. The thing that needs to be booked the furthest out, that everyone needs to coordinate to, is the location in your wedding. And in your Hangout on air, it's the date. Because if you invite people to a Hangout on air to participate live on the panel of a Hangout on air, and then you change the date, it will be really difficult to get the same grouping of people back again, and so you have to do a lot of planning work twice. So really it's a big commitment with the date. Paula, you actually had a story to share about what you saw when you were looking at Google Plus Hangouts on air for the first time, and what you saw as sort of your perspective of like when you would be ready to get started, what they would offer to you at the start. Oh, you're muted. There you are.
The sticky button on my side. Our company has always been involved with social media. I mean, back from I don't know how many years ago, because it's internet marketing, it makes sense. But Google Plus was sort of new to us, and we really started investing in it this year. And when I discovered Google Plus Hangouts on air, I was so blown away. I basically fell in love with this feature because I was watching live while experts whom I had respected and read were talking to me, and not scripted, not behind a PowerPoint, just conversationally, and I got to interact with them through the comments. I was so amazed, because normally you would pay hundreds of dollars and have to fly to a conference or something to be in a crowded lecture hall to hear these guys talk.
Absolutely. I actually almost kind of get chills when you talk about it in that way, because I had a similar experience. I really thought when I first looked at Google Plus Hangouts on air, I thought I feel like it's what I've been looking for in social media all along. I always loved Facebook back in the day in 2008, 2009 when it was new. That thought leaders and experts were starting to put up a Facebook profile and that they could connect with people. That was really interesting to me. And then I realized that Twitter is really the social platform where I go for the people, to connect with people who do fascinate me from around the world, where I find the people who fascinate me. But it was still, you know, a lot of those people who are fascinating on Twitter are not very active on Twitter. And so when I first saw the opportunity to hang out and really mastermind with people that I would never be able to have a live conversation with before,
Exactly.
Then I was kind of like, oh my God, this is really, really powerful stuff. And that's where it excites me for journalists and for editorial professionals, because it takes the text. I was really struggling before I started my Google Plus Hangouts on Air show. I was really struggling to create enough content for my employer and for myself to attract Google searches. And with Hangouts on Air, it makes it so much easier to create the content for all of your social channels. So that's what I really liked about it. Zara, you also had, you have just a couple of quick points on what you look for to get started with your Hangouts on Air.
I do. Getting started way before it's, you know, live broadcast. You know, I lived on a boat for 4.5 years, and I've flown planes, and just like that, I have a checklist. I have a checklist because I want to make certain that each and every item is taken care of. And if you, after you've done a few Hangouts on Air, you think you've got it all in your head, but that's not true. So I believe it's very important to have a checklist and go through that checklist. And just one other thing, Debbie, when talking about production, and that is when a business decides to produce Hangouts on Airs, oftentimes there's someone within the corporate structure who may want to take on the task of production and do that within the business, so that there are other options besides hiring an outside producer, and the business can foster someone who likes the idea and enjoys that sort of thing. I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's an important point. It's not an either-or situation.
Absolutely. I tend to agree, and thank you for bringing that up. I don't think that that I expressed that very clearly previously, but it is. I strongly encourage, if you're thinking about using Google Plus Hangouts on Air, I strongly encourage you to be as prepared as you possibly can. So that when you decide, you know, we're not quite producing the results that we had anticipated or had hoped with our Hangouts on Air, now it's time for us to take it to the next level. The more prepared you are, the more that you've already tried to learn what it is that you like and don't like and what works for you, the easier it will be for your professional producer to just make small tweaks that will make all the difference in the world. In the end results that you're receiving. Okay, so moving on, what we also talked about in the article, getting started with your Hangouts on Air, one of the very first things in order to make sure that the content that you create is of value to the specific audience, that you will be meeting your business objectives. The first thing that you want to think about really is, oops. Let me see if I can turn this off. That's kind of noisy. I don't think I have a volume here. Turn your volume. Okay. Well, I can't get it to mute, unfortunately, and I'm in somebody else's office, so hopefully that will stop very soon. Background stuff. Okay, now I totally got distracted. What was I saying? I was talking about the first place that you want to really look when you're thinking about your Hangout on Air and you've decided, okay, we're going to do a Hangout on Air. It's going to have results for our business that we're going to measure. Whether or not we meet our goals is a whole other story, but we're going to measure how well we do, and we're going to try and get better every time. The first thing that you really want to look at is who is the audience that you want to reach, and what is it that you need to tell them. in order to bring them closer to your business, in order to connect them more with you? What is it that you can give to them in value in your Hangout on Air? And so, you know, thinking about your audience first, how does that resonate with you? Michael, I want to start with you. You had some interesting thoughts about how Hangouts on Air allow you to function and allow you to reach your audience. So.
Yes, well, Hangouts on Air, to me, in my position on how I am using Hangouts on Air, it's all about location and the perception of what they're seeing through the Hangout. Our location, where we're hosting our live performance Hangout, our broadcast, is in a mini, like, micro theater. It's set up almost like you would, you know, in The Voice, like almost like a little theater. So when people come and access this, they have a great location. It's not just in some room. That's one. So what can we give them through Hangouts? You have all your fans, you know, we're promoting this via Twitter. All of our fans via Twitter are avid rock lovers. So we're not just promoting to some bakery that is promoting donuts or something that has nothing to do with it. It's all sanctioned for rock and roll music lovers. So when they come, what can we give to our audience? Well, we can give, you know, we're a brand, we're a lifestyle. There's many things out there. You have Nike, for, you know, well, anyways, in my brand, you have rock music. We promote, you know, well-being, positive lyrics. You know, you're a member for life. And this Hangout enables these viewers to actually feel like they're welcomed into the band, into it. They're not, you know, because in the way the industry is now, there's so many loopholes to actually reach the artist, to actually be engaged with the artist. So it makes them almost robotic, almost fake. Mm-hmm. And we want to, you know, we want to be able to get the fans really engaged as much as possible, so they feel like they're a part of something larger than life. And this gives it to us, Google Hangouts.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It does. It gives you a lot of value that you can bring to them, and I think what you said about them seeming almost robotic. I think that makes sense, because when you are, it's almost like you republish a version of yourself on each social platform, and if you're not literally there at the time when they start talking to you, they understand that they're talking to a machine, that they're talking to your social presence, but you're not actually there at the moment. And with Hangouts on Air, it gives you almost like a front row experience for your fans to really join you in the same room from anywhere around the world.
Most definitely.
For myself, really what I like about my background is media and audience targeting. So what really excites me about Google Plus Hangouts on Air is how I can use the video and I can use this conversation. I use this tool to easily create video chats that once we're published, once they're done, they're absolutely indistinguishable from other YouTube videos. And they get all of the Google SEO love and Google ranking abilities of YouTube videos. They also have all of the social sharing capabilities. And if you've ever shared a YouTube video or embedded a YouTube video into blog posts or shared it on any of your social channels, then you know how to promote and how to market Google Plus Hangouts on Air. So that's, I mean, for me, what's really exciting is that it allows me really easily to stand out from all of the other marketers that are reaching out to my business prospects. Usually when I send them a Google Plus Hangout on Air, it's the first time that they've ever actually seen one. And certainly very rare that they've seen one that was created specifically for them or with them as an audience member in mind. So it allows me to stand out when I'm making offers and opportunities and having initial conversations with prospects. Paula, did you have something you wanted to add on that?
I was just going to, I think, what's your next point about the goals of having a hangout. And in your article, you mentioned some very specific goals about ROI and getting, new clients or signups. And I had a different perspective. I don't think that encapsulates most of a business's goals for running a hangout. I know in our case, we are a thought leader in our industry. And so it's another tool, excuse me, it's another tool where we can talk about something. For instance, Google, when it releases a new update for their algorithm, we need to get out there and start talking about that. And excuse me, in our desire to educate and inform people about search marketing, we will be able to put together a very quick hangout without a lot of promotion that involves all of our experts talking about what should you think about this latest algorithm update.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point. I know in the article I did mention that most Google Plus Hangouts on Air, I think that was the wording that I used, most professionally produced Google Plus Hangouts on Air have the business objectives of either measured email opt-ins and through the RSVPs, as well as the opportunity for conversions into sales, either a low-end sale where someone buys right away after watching your Google Plus Hangout on Air. They go to a sales and a sales webinar page where they can purchase, or if you're in a business where you're looking for high-end sales and you're looking for lead generation, what you can do, the conversion there would be having people apply for a strategy session with your organization. So what I would say, I agree, Paula, that a lot of the Hangouts that are being produced are not specifically for business objectives, bottom line business objectives of either RSVPs or conversions into some sort of a sale. But I would still argue that even when you're doing a Hangout on Air on very quick turnaround, on very limited planning time, and with very limited investment of energy, time, and probably no investment of outside budget, even when you do that, you still have business objectives that you're looking to meet that can be measured, of your thought leadership, of how successful the Hangout on Air is, and that's something that you can do to improve over time. You can look at even a thought leadership Hangout. You can start to invite people to opt into your list, and if one Hangout conversation generates more interaction and more engagement with your audience than another Hangout conversation, or a style of Hangout generates more positive results for the business, even if that wasn't the number one goal. The number one goal is thought leadership and get out there fast. But I still believe that that's something that you could measure, and something that you could consider measuring to see how far can we really take it. How, maybe it could become one of the largest drivers of new audience.
That would be exciting.
I think it would be super exciting, and especially if it's not even what you started out intending for.
Right. We try to do branding, and if crowds of people come our way, we're okay with that.
Absolutely. So my recommendation would be measure it anyways. I would say always, no matter what Hangout you're doing, especially if you're doing it for business, if you're allocating even just staff time, if you're not hiring an outside Hangouts on Air professional, and you're not, hiring anyone to train your team, even if you're taking it all on yourself, I think it's a really smart idea to measure what results are, what is the outcome, so that whenever anyone asks you, why are you spending 4 hours a week on this Hangout, or an hour a week on this Hangout, or even 4 hours a month, you can rationalize it right away and say, well, we've had 225 new signups to our blog directly from the Google Plus Hangout on Air. We don't know where the other signups have come from, but we know that this Hangout on Air is a valuable driver. Okay, so
hey Debbie, if possible, I'd like to add to that, that conversation. I know for myself, the Google Partners community, we do regular training sessions. We actually use HOAs. We get experts in our industry, such as Frederick Valles, who will host an HOA and talk about specific subjects related to AdWords. Recently, within our community, we did an HOA on recertifications, where the Google partners had an opportunity to attend 2 different HOAs that Frederick used. They're about an hour-long session, but the benefit, I think, of the HOAs using that for training sessions is the fact that even if a partner can't commit to that specific date, because we're talking about a community of over 20,000 people. So in that respect, you know, it'd be hard for every single individual to attend that event on that specific date and time. But one of the benefits is once the HOA is done, they can go to the partner's YouTube channel and at any time take an opportunity to review the content that's shared and then take the test to become recertified. I know for ourselves, our community moderators monitored the activities statistics-wise. It was a huge initiative. I got a huge response, a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement. They even offered a promotional AdWords certificate framed to encourage people to participate on the HOA. Alternatively, the Google Small Business community, they also will feature people like the Small Business Administration, where I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, they had a huge, huge turnout. We're talking several thousand people. Again, this community is over 75,000 people, so the if factor of when and if everybody can attend, I think just participating in those Hangouts myself, I know I learned a lot. I took a lot away from it, but again, I think one of the benefits of doing the HOA for larger communities like that is it is a pre-recorded HOA that can be accessed at a later time.
Absolutely, I would tend to agree that in my experience, and not all Hangout producers focus on the video conversation that they're creating for the audience after the recording. There are many Hangout producers who make the choice that what they're creating is a video event that is live, and that is their sole focus. And you can tell you create a different type of conversation when what you're really focusing on is your live audience interaction and engagement than when you're creating content that is intended to be watched later. And that intent comes from enough knowledge that even if you have 100,000 people within your community who are likely to be interested in the conversation that you have, there are a million reasons why in life they would not be able to attend the live recording, the live discussion, but they might still like to participate and be involved with the success of your show. So you can have people embedding your videos after you've recorded them. You can have content managers that are using your Hangout on Air videos for their content, for their blog posts, if what you're talking about is unique. And I think that is really the best opportunity for us to segue into the next question, which was, or the next point about planning your Hangouts on Air, is that you want to make sure that the conversation that you're planning and the content that you're planning has a very unique angle. And I know that everyone on the panel had lots to say about providing a unique angle or really targeting the content that you're creating. Zara, would you like to start?
As soon as I get that little red button unclicked. Yes. When my show has a special focus, because it's usually just one person. And I like to think of what we do there as chat. So when I get together with the guests a few days before the show to go over what we're going to be doing, um, we focus on, say, 5 or 6 topic themes, because I am one of those people who does a lot of it in audience engagement on the show. But there's a reason for that. Because the audience asks questions of these people who have specialized skills and expertise in various areas that apply to business, especially online business. And we do encourage audience questions and comments, because when that audio or video of the live show goes out, those questions from the audience are actually representative of the other people who will be watching or listening at a future date.
Yes.
And so that is the reason that my specific Hangout on Air is structured that way. It's different for different people, but you do need a plan, and you do need to talk it over with your guests, your panelists, before it happens. One of the reasons you can do that is just the technical stuff. You can make sure that they've got their earbuds and their microphone is working and all that sort of thing. But also to really go over with your guests the style of your show, because it does make a difference in their participation. And I'll let somebody else continue on.
Absolutely. I think, Molly, you had some points that you wanted to make about providing a unique angle in the content.
Yeah, I think for the most part you want to gain the interest of the people attending the HOA. So if you can identify something that they're interested in learning about, I think that will create more of a buzz or an interest to get participants joining the HOA. Again, for myself, when I plan an HOA with my clients, such as Lawless Hearts, we focus on their fans for obvious reasons. They're a rock band, and their fans want to learn more about them, and that's why we came up with the monthly Q&A, where their fans can get on the HOA and use the Q&A app and ask individual band members, hey, we saw your video on YouTube, or hey, we saw that picture of Michael that got 25,000 views, and we're really interested in learning like how the band join, how did it form, what are you guys doing for the band in regards to marketing themselves. So I think in that particular example, we cater to the fans, meaning we're looking for content that they're interested in learning about. The concert series, that's obvious something they would be interested in because they get to see the band live in action. So for me, depending on whether it's a business or organization, we really just try to identify what their users would be interested, getting a unique angle, and promoting that content.
Absolutely, and the unique angle is really the key in my mind. The reason why unique angle is so key is because that is what will bring you up at the top of Google searches for the keywords that you're targeting, is making sure that your unique angle targets the keywords that you really want to be competitive with, especially the long tail keywords. Michael, you wanted to jump in on that.
Yes, based on what Molly says, she's helping us so much in setting up these hangouts. A really unique angle too to add to our sort of concept of this whole hangout thing is that we're in a live room setting. Not only will we have our fans from overseas or all around the world or wherever they may be watching, we have a room that can fit 300 people. So we can add, let's say we have a section of our broadcast or our show where there's a Q&A where they can come up on stage and ask us anything they want. That is very, 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 fan interactiveness, in a live setting and in a streaming setting. And, the great thing about tagging this with the YouTube is that, say a fan, in Japan, we have a lot of fans in Japan. say they missed it. I mean, the time is a 24-hour difference. You know, they can go directly to our YouTube channel and watch the recorded version of it. So it definitely, I think it's a very unique angle that adds to it with the live setting of it. So.
Absolutely, and I think what excites me about the opportunity for you and working with Molly really is that there isn't the content that you'll be producing, that you'll be giving to your fans and to your audience doesn't exist anywhere else. They can't get it anywhere else other than through you. And so in theory, everyone who searches Google should be finding right at the top of the Google search your videos and the opportunity to join you in concert in many ways, live, right away. And also, Zara, I think you made a really good point about bringing in live audience viewers. I always recommend, even if you're creating video with the intention of it being used for viewers after the live event, as today is, we have lots of live interaction, lots of great engagement on the page, but the actual intent is for everyone who's reading the article on Forbes to be able to, now they have not only the article, but they have the article and a video that accompanies the things that they've read about in the article and that takes the conversation further. One of the things that I always recommend is for my clients, and I try and do this myself as much as I can, is I try to bring in some people who asked questions previously or prior to the event and mention them on the video. That way, at the very least, I have the opportunity in blog posts, and when I'm sharing the video later, I can send it right to them. And even if they weren't able to watch live, they're going to feel validated and recognized and a part of the conversation. And when you give that to people, they're much more likely to then share it and say, look, even though I wasn't there live, even though I didn't take the time to attend or jump through hoops or whatever it was required to get onto the live broadcast, I still impacted the conversation. I still had something valuable to say, and they recognized me. I want to show everyone how I was recognized on video. And so really engaging the live audience, I think, is it's a key element to getting the most out of your Hangouts on air. And so it's something that I personally find a lot of challenges with, because the various apps work in different functions, and sometimes you turn one app off or one app on, and it means that you can't use any of the other apps because they're not created by Google. And so they don't always play well, nice together. And so you really have to make the choice for yourself. Paula, you wanted to jump in on engagement.
Yes, I just want to mention, I think Google Plus is founded on the premise of you can be face-to-face with people, you can get to know them, you can write long-form content, you can really express your opinions and have interactions. The comments in Google Plus, I think, are more active than in any other social network. And so you go to HOA and it's like engagement on steroids, because now you're looking face-to-face at someone. And my first, like I said before, my first experience with them was as an attendee. And I was amazed at how I could, in real time, communicate not only with the people speaking, but the other people watching. And it was a real-life experience, even though it was on the computer screen. So I love the engagement aspect that you brought out there.
I wanted to add one point too, and that is that Hangouts on Air engagement reaches globally, so that people may come in before the Hangout on Air and leave a comment something like, gosh, so sorry, it's 4 a.m. where I am, but I do have this one question for the guest. And their question gets answered so that they can come back later and get the answer to their question, even though they aren't there right at that live moment. So it's a very, very powerful tool for global outreach.
Yes. Sorry, I was just looking really quickly at the event page. Of course, all of this talk about, interaction and engagement with people on the event page. There's a lot of conversation there, and I was just going to look for a name. I've been having a lot of conversations back and forth. Someone by the name who's a new connection to me, or a new contact for me on Google+. His name is Griswold Grimm, and has been having a lot of great interaction and feedback for me about the audience perspective of using various apps, and especially the Q&A app, which from an audience perspective for many people, they see it as forcing the audience to go into a different room. And one of the things that I love about Google Plus Hangouts on Air that I hear reflected within the audiences, especially those who are supportive and using Google Plus Hangouts on Air, what we really love about the experience of participating in a Google Plus Hangouts on Air is how it's almost like attending a show or attending a movie where you have a community experience together. And it's a live, exciting event. And then for me, my unique approach to Hangouts on Air is that I always like to have someone who is a celebrity or an influencer on my show. And that brings a whole other angle of attraction into the programming that you make. And that's where, for me, going back to a unique angle in content, that's where I find it really, really easy to get to the top of the Google search engines for the content that you're talking about, especially if you have someone who is a key influencer, who is a celebrity in real life, or maybe not a Hollywood celebrity, but a celebrity within your field, within your niche, someone that is basically a household name within your business. To bring them onto the Hangout on Air and then have a conversation with them that is completely different from all of their other publicity that they're actively doing, that gets you to the top of the search engines for your particular keywords and for what you're really looking to talk about. Let me go next to Molly, wanting to add something about celebrities, and then on to Paula.
Yes, I just wanted to just make a quick point about using celebrities. The Google Partners community is actually featuring an event on October the 15th where they will be doing a live streamcast HOA from the Googleplex. They have picked two celebrities, if you will, that are going to be hosting the event. One is Frederick Valaise, and the other is the president of the small business community. So in doing that, they are using your concept of taking these celebrities or these experts in their various fields and performing the HOA so that the partners within the community can host their own event, either at their office or at a branch office, and take these celebrities, if you will, and their content and promote the content and get the partners interested in participating in these Connect events. So just to bring everyone together, to just take that concept of taking a celebrity status, getting the interest, getting that buzz created, and getting people to attend the event.
Yep. When you bring them into your Google Plus Hangout on Air, when you start talking about and promoting the celebrities who will be joining you, what happens is it increases the engagement and attention of everyone. It's almost like somebody else is going through the work and making the investment of the Google Plus Hangout on Air, but you get all of the benefits of taking that content and can even, as Molly was saying, have a live event at your location where you can have people joining and participating on the Hangout on Air, but also watching and engaging with each other live. And I think that that's very exciting. Paula, you wanted to add something.
I just want to piggyback on that. When you put an influencer or a celebrity, in your case, someone that has a wide circle of followers, and you either tag them in a post or you include them as a guest in your HOA, or you even just mention them, the potential is there for them to become a partner in promotion, where they will promote your content, your HOA, to their audience. That exposes you to a new audience, but it also has a search engine optimization benefit because they may have 50,000 people in their circles, or who have circled them because they're an influencer in Google+. All of those 50,000 people, if that influencer has written an article about your HOA or even just commended your thing with a +1 or whatever, your content can appear in all of those searchers' personalized search in Google.
I say that it's almost a way to get your Google Plus Hangout on Air distributed through private networks.
Yes.
It automatically gets the wider distribution on public networks, on Google search. But when you include someone, my experience with my first influencer on my Hangout on Air Sparkle SOS book authors and publishers was Guy Kawasaki. And I had no idea at that point how to pre-plan a Hangout on Air. There wasn't any ability to pre-schedule Hangouts on Air, so I wasn't even thinking about it. And with him being the first influencer, I automatically saw a huge jump in the number of live viewers, and continuously, it's now been 18 months, and that is still the highest viewing video that I've ever created because he has such a large audience. And he shared it out as we were going live that we're about to talk live on Hangouts on Air about his new book, which I had invited him, I had shown him my show at the same week that he was launching his book, and so it was a perfect opportunity for him to come on to my show and really change everything about Hangouts on Air for me.
Sure. He was a great first choice.
Well, it's funny, though, because Guy asked me if he could be a part of my show. We'd only done 3 episodes, and I had decided, okay, it's time for me. My focus has always been off of Google Plus Hangouts on Air. My focus has always been, how do I distribute the videos that I create on Google Plus and make myself an influencer, make myself stand out in comparison to my competitors, just for attention's sake. And so it was, we'd already done 3 months or 3 episodes, 3 monthly episodes, and I suddenly realized, I was like, maybe I should start promoting my show on Google Plus. Maybe I should try using Google Plus. And I've always been one of those people that kind of hated Google Plus. I didn't want to use Google Plus because I was burned by Google Wave and Google Buzz, two social networks that Google launched and promoted and pushed really hard to get people onto, and then they just ditched them when they didn't work. And so a lot of people have similar concerns with Google Plus. And so I wasn't really using Google Plus to promote my Hangouts at all, but what I did was I just shared it. I started, how do I find communities on Google Plus that would be interested in a book authors and publishers Hangout? I happened to find this one community that had just launched, and it had over 400 members already. I was like blown away. How could this book community on Google Plus be so active and have so many people? And so I posted to it. I said, last night we hung out with this panel of book authors and publishing people, and it was a really great conversation, and soon I'll be posting the link for next month. Let me know if you'd like to join me. And within less than an hour, Guy Kawasaki came onto that post on Google Plus and said, can I do this sometime?
Fantastic.
And that changed everything for me. That was the catalyst, the moment in time. And I do have that image saved where Guy asked me if he could be a member on a participant on my show. It's become a major part of many of my speeches and presentations.
That's a great war story, Debbie. That's definitely one for the books.
Yeah, well, and what I learned was that you just really need to share your content, share the Hangout that you create after you've created it with confidence. You want to share it to the communities where you think this is good value for them. They're struggling with the same things that I'm struggling with, and I just had a conversation with the expert. So now I'm going to go share all of that expert opinion with other people who seem to be struggling with the same things that I am. Okay, so let's, I don't want to dominate the conversation. I can do that very easily. I do want to remind everyone really quickly, those who are still watching us, if you haven't yet opted in for this Hangout. You can join me and opt in, and I will be following up with everyone and keeping in touch with you to let you know more about what I'm doing on Hangouts on Air and upcoming events that I have. And you can opt in, and you'll also get bonus templates and things like that for planning your Hangouts on Air at thesparkleagency.com/Forbes. And we're just going to transition really quickly. It's sort of like the 7th inning stretch of the Hangout. This is kind of a long Hangout since we got started late, but we have planned for 2 hours, and we'll probably just go right on the 2-hour nose. Or we might start a little bit, end with just a little bit early. But what I want to move on to now is I want to talk about going back to who those influencers are, and who are the influencers and who are the celebrities that you would like to have on your Google Plus Hangout on Air. And I actually want to invite you, I should have pre-planned this little element just a little bit better, but I want to invite you to actually email me. You can email me at debbie.horovitch@gmail.com. And I want you to put in the subject line of the email, who would be the celebrity, the one celebrity, if you could only do one Hangout on Air all next year, who would be the one celebrity or influencer that would be most valuable for you to get on that one Hangout to help attract a whole new audience to your content? And those of you who are on the panel, I would like to ask you the exact same question, so jump in and let me know your answer. Whoever wants to jump in.
I'll chime in first.
Awesome.
Can you hear me? Well, if it's in the case of my business and music and art in general, as a celebrity, I would love to have an interaction with John Bon Jovi. He not only is an artist and a creative songwriter, but he understands the business portion of music and how to engage an audience, how to create a following, how to build content, how to support yourself, build your entity, your empire, your corporation. And he has done that, of course he was, back in the 80s, but he has somehow maintained. See, I look at like maintenance of it. I don't want to see like you're big and you drop. I want to see consistent growth from good to great and maintaining great. And he, to me, has, in my industry per se, has proven longevity. And it is all about longevity to me. So I would love to be in something with him. I mean, he owns football teams now and stuff. He has, so it's that would definitely be a privilege. Yeah.
I think that is just a phenomenal person to target and to want to bring into your content. Just keep in mind, I absolutely think that you can. I don't think it's really a faraway dream. I think it's a real tangible possibility for you, especially when you're thinking about what is the Hangout on Air that I can create that John Bon Jovi would be so motivated to help me succeed at. So again, you go back to your audience and think about what is it that they need from John Bon Jovi. What is it that John Bon Jovi is trying to give that you can find him and see him actually trying to give to other people, and then create that opportunity and propose it to him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think you'd have a very good shot. Who wants to go next?
I'll go ahead and chime in. I know for myself, I interact with a lot of Googlers, working with the Google Partners community and Google Small Business. So, in interacting with them, there are some just inside Googly things I'd like to learn about, and who better to learn it from than the Googler. So, kind of going back to your concept of having a panel of experts. For me, that would be exactly what I would want to try and accomplish, is establish a panel, if you would, of Googlers that I could just get on there and learn more about what they do and some googly secrets.
I love that idea. I love the idea of getting to pick the brain from inside the company that you're working with closely. For me, it was similar with my show, Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers. After Guy Kawasaki and after Chris Guillebeau and Dorie Clark and Mike Michalowicz and Sam Fiorella, after having a whole almost parade of best-selling book authors join us as special guests, we actually had Kindle Direct Publishing come on for a show. And we're, as publishers of we're all publishing ebooks to Kindle. It was great to have them present to us and talk to us not about the things that they would normally talk about. We were really able to pick their brains and say, I'm trying to do something and it seems like I should be able to, but I can't. And can you help me with that? And they were able to open a lot of things up for us. So I think that that's a really smart idea, as well as targeting for the conversation the organization that you use, that you rely on. Those organizations that bring value to you, you can bring a lot of value to your audience and value back to the organization by creating that Google Plus Hangout on Air event.
Along those lines, Debbie, you can brand your company by bringing those faces forward, and that's another value in doing that. We have a lot of SEO experts within the walls of Bruce Clay Inc. that we can draw on as subject matter experts to talk about lots of things on Google Hangouts, and I love the forum for that. But if I had to answer your question and say a dream person I would like to interview, it would be Matt Cutts, who is sort of the chief spokesperson for Google for the search engine industry. And he's on sabbatical now, so I think our interview would go something like, so what books have you been reading lately, and how's your suntan, and oh, by the way, what's happening at Google?
And with him being on sabbatical, do you think he'd be able to give you a really great insight?
He would give an excellent insight because he's amazing, and I'm sure he's staying in touch.
Absolutely, I'm positive that he is. Zara, I know you've already had some influencers and celebrities on your show, but if you had to do, like I said, just one hangout next year, who would be the one person that would bring the most value to your audience for you?
I think I have to agree it would be Matt Cutts. And I think my audience, particularly because they're so involved with Google Plus and come regularly to learn more about using Google Plus and many other features of working online, it would just be a dream come true.
Awesome. Okay, so Matt Cutts, you've got a call out on your head. You've got a few people who are going to be trying to get you on Hangouts on Air, and I think the two of you, Zara and Paula now, you have a challenge to see who gets them first and to see that you get them before anybody else on Google Plus Hangouts on Air. I know that he's done Hangouts in the past, but it's a challenge that you can propose to yourself. I think when you're planning an ongoing Hangout, or a series of Hangouts, which what I like about doing a series of Hangouts is that it allows you to practice with every episode, because ultimately you can plan as much as you want, and I go back again to the similar to planning a wedding. You can plan everything that you want, but in the end, God chooses what's going to happen on the day. And the same thing, I say the Google gods hopefully will be nice to me for this Hangout on Air. Apparently there have been some, there was some tech troubles at the start, and there's some people on the live page who aren't able to see what they want to see. So as much planning as you do, you always have to still consider, it's a practice, just like law, just like medicine. Surgeons and lawyers take huge risks, and it's really, really important, but they sometimes lose. And Hangouts can be the same way. You just have to look to improve yourself and your abilities with each time. And I know that I didn't answer the question. I actually, gosh, I don't know that I would even have an answer to that question. If I had to just interview one person in all of next year, I would probably go back and re-interview Dorie Clark. She's been most active and most supportive, and I think that even our relationship, she started as a stranger to me and came onto my show, and the excitement of creating something new that was new to her, for me introducing Google Plus Hangouts to her and giving her the gift of that tool, I think it was a really valuable thing. It was something that connected her to me as a professional, and so she's been incredibly supportive, and I would love to go back and see how we've progressed over the 18 months since she first came onto my show, and you know, how far the relationship has come, because that for me is the ultimate benefit, the ultimate ROI that I get out of producing Hangouts on Air. As much as I love to measure RSVPs and sales and all sorts of, you know, the bottom line stuff, it's really the soft and intangible, the business benefits that you can't buy, that I've been able to experience from having celebrity and influencer guests on my Hangouts, not for me, but for my audience. Of course, for me as well, but for my audience as well. Okay, so if, now this is a little bit of an awkward question, so I just, if I were to ask you for your Hangouts on Air on the panel, if there was one specific thing that you would hope in the future that you could do or create or achieve using Google Plus Hangouts on Air, it's not what you're looking to do today with your Hangouts on Air, but in the future, where would you see yourself taking Hangouts on Air, and or how far could they take you? Who wants to start?
Well, I'd like to take this to actual live TV, and being a live, like not only live on the internet, but live TV. You know, in my business, you know, sadly to say, it's all about numbers now. And broadcasting, getting your numbers up is one of the hardest things to do in my industry. You know, you see it in television all days. They do different techniques to gain. They do funny things, they do outrageous things to gain followers. And I would like to gain so much amount of publicity just from people joining, being a part of the team, where, you know, we get it sponsored to be able to be on TV actually, you know, through it. So actually promoting this technology on actual TV on a station. So I think that's possible, you know, with the so.
I absolutely agree it's possible. I think that I think that's a really exciting idea, and my brain starts to go a little bit. I think that you could even think about it as like a live broadcast, a live streaming or live broadcast on television through like a music channel, a live broadcast music video. Wouldn't that be an awesome event? Like if we have MTV and Much Music here in Canada. If MTV were to say, yeah, Lawless Hearts, we want you to actually record your music video live on our channel, and we'll broadcast it live as you play through a Hangout on Air. I think that's an incredible idea.
Right.
And not just my idea, but your idea.
Hey, everyone's idea. It's all good.
Absolutely. What do you think, Molly? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I would say for myself, just the concept of what you've done today. You've taken a live HOA and you've gotten it on Forbes.com. So for myself, I would take and build on that to have a live HOA and have it posted on social media sites, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, to actually take the live HOA And as you pointed out, schedule a date, schedule a time, coordinate with the social media groups that, hey, we're doing this huge event that's never been done. We're going to broadcast a live HOA on every major social media network simultaneously. I think that would have a huge impact, not only for promoting HOAs, but for social media to actually participate, to actually host a live HOA on their website. So for me, that would be the concept that I would go with.
I like that idea a lot. I think it's got a lot more legs than just sharing your Hangout on air on your own social channels. When you can find other social communities and other social networks that are larger than your own, that have new people that you're not exposed to or saturated your message with yet, I think that that's an incredibly valuable thing. And the social networks are there. They're social. The communities and the groups are already set up. Why wouldn't you go to the group administrator and negotiate the ability to have your show simulcast, which is live broadcast at the same time as you're recording, or even syndicated, where they take your content and rebroadcast for you after you've recorded? Either of that, I think it's a huge opportunity to get and multiply your audience for your Hangouts on air. So thank you for that contribution.
I really like that idea too. My first answer was just to say our approach is to create a library of useful videos. Our goal is to educate and inform businesses who are trying to do internet marketing and optimize their websites for the search engines. So that's our goal, is just to create that useful library. But what Molly just said sort of sparked new ideas and new goals. Maybe we could get embedded somewhere else. How about search engine land? That would be awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I talk about a lot in Celebrity Hangouts on Air, which is a training program that takes people through my approach to Google Plus Hangouts on Air. Really what I talk about is looking to where are the established pockets of audience where they already have the know, like, and trust factor with that established media brand. I know I mentioned this a lot in Canada. We've got the Globe and Mail, which is a national business newspaper. There's no reason why, if you're doing an important business hangout, that you couldn't have it live broadcast embedded in an article that you wrote ahead of time in the Globe and Mail, as well as on your own blog. And absolutely, there are so many different places, because you are a content creator and you're confident that the content you're creating is unique. Why wouldn't an established media channel want to pick up on this super engaging and super Google SEO content that you're creating and giving to them, really making available to them for free? Really excited. Zara.
Yes, I am. I now have the Midweek Zap simultaneously broadcast outside of Google Plus channels, which is very exciting, and that's been going on for, gosh, a couple of months now. But I am really looking to expand that. I think, Debbie, you said it at one point in time, is that you keep the same content and look for new audiences, and that's definitely my goal right now.
Yeah, gosh, I wish I could remember who said that, because I can't take credit for it.
Okay.
And what they said, and I'm thinking it might have been Lisa Sasevich, but I might be completely wrong as well. But what the person said was, you don't change your message, you change your audience. And what they were talking about was the fear, the sense in someone who's trying to create thought leadership for themselves. If you're a solopreneur, if you're someone like me, I'm trying to get word out about Celebrity Hangouts on Air, I feel often like I'm repeating the exact same story, and I don't want to bore people having to listen to the exact same story over and over and over again. And so that was the question, was how do I know that how do I keep up with always creating fresh content when I'm trying to be an expert? How do I always, how do I not bore my audiences? And the answer was, you don't change you don't change what you're talking about. You stay focused on what you're talking about. You change your audience. And they may have a very different response or a different reaction to your content that can give you new ideas and open up new opportunities for you.
Yep, I'm looking.
And for myself, really, if I could do just one thing with Google Plus Hangouts on Air, my ultimate goal, and it's something that I kind of work on and test, and you can see me demonstrating in a very public way most of my big tests. What I really work to do, and what I would love to do, is to be able to take something like this Forbes Hangout that is embedded in one major medium and also have it live simulcast across thousands of media channels or thousands of blogs that are online, where they have audiences established, where they have unlimited, virtually free real estate to add. That's my dream, is to take something and make it really big, make it humongous, kind of like I was looking a couple of weeks ago at the Stand Up to Cancer concert that was simulcast across television networks. They said that it was simulcast across 177 television networks worldwide. And what I was thinking is, why is it not also live simulcast on 2,500 major cancer blogs and websites and research websites and hospital websites, and every researcher that gets benefit from the Stand Up to Cancer, every scientist that is involved with Stand Up to Cancer, every organization and every person that's involved that owns a blog or that owns a media channel should have been pushing it forward in the live simulcast during the fundraising period as well. I really thought that if they didn't have the online live broadcast and driving back to the donation website, for me, that was a big miss. And something, maybe not it's a big miss, but it's a huge opportunity, I think, for someone to come in and really blow that organization, blow what they can do, and reaching audiences and reaching people live around the world, give them new opportunities and blow it out of the water. Okay, so moving on, at this point, what we talk about is, practicing your Hangouts on Air. I think that we've really talked about it quite a bit. I think everyone agrees that you do want to, even if you have a Hangout on Air producer who's hired for your main event, you want to have as many opportunities to practice and test out the technology and see how Google Plus Hangouts on Air break. Try and break them in your test Hangouts. You will find it shockingly easy to ruin your Hangout on Air. And you go, oh, hey, I need to take notes on exactly what did I press and what happened and how did it make things go wrong in the Hangout, so that when you're doing the live event, when you're doing this Hangout that you've planned with celebrities and influencers and audience members joining you on the panel, you want to make sure that as much as possible you've practiced to flush out the tech problems that will come up. On the panel, what I'd like to hear is how you practice and what are your top line rules of, you don't want to go into the live Hangout without X, Y, and Z.
I'll just go ahead and jump in. I know for myself, when I first started hosting Hangouts, I actually just tested it on myself. Silly as that sounds, I would invite my husband to attend the Hangout and just get in there and play around with the apps, lighting, background, your microphone, testing everything out. When I first initially started every night, what I would do for 1 week straight is I would allot an hour period where I would just get in there and test it out. And I would record it, and so I would record it privately, because of course I didn't want people to see my mistakes. But I would go back and I would review, well, what did I do wrong here? What did I do right? You know, and for me, it was just getting in there, playing around, just experimenting, getting some experience. And then once I did this for a couple weeks, I felt more comfortable, and I thought, well, okay, well, why don't we start inviting a client? And that client was Michael, and we started using the Hangout on Air. I'm actually developing a website for Lawless Hearts right now, and we talk about website related, hey, we need to tweak this, we need to do that. And in doing that, I was actually able to help Michael become more familiar with Hangouts on Air. So for me, it's just getting in there, breaking it, making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and trying to improve.
Perfect.
I actually have developed a little checklist that I send to any guests, and I'll just share the items on the checklist in case it's helpful. I share a link to install the Hangout Toolbox app so that they can set up their lower third. I insist that they have a plug, an AC plug, because we actually had one of our Hangouts suddenly stop because the person was on battery powered and his laptop died. And so we just started that one over again. And then another item is to have a wired internet connection so that you have a flawless, smooth transmission. So those things are just some little things that help.
Absolutely. I think that it's great to have that list, and you know, that checklist for you is it becomes an individual thing, but I think that there are some common factors. Zara, did you have some items that you wanted to add to that?
Yes, I would say for anyone who's considering, definitely agree with Molly. Just practice, 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 and I have set up practice sessions with friends and colleagues, and we do test things. And another thing is, you know, Google has a way of making apps come up first, and so you have to train yourself to be able to deal with the new apps. And believe me, you'll get feedback from your audience if they don't like that app. So you need to pay attention to that. Also, from the guest perspective, yes, I have a list of things that I send out to them from technical aspects, and also about the nature of the show, because it's not really an interview format, it's more of a chat. And I like to prepare them for the concept of the audience participation. So I want them to be aware of that, because some people have asked me for the list of questions that will happen on the show, and I'm like, no, it doesn't happen like that, you know. So I like to introduce them to the overall concept of the show as well. And it is very, very important to have your guests educated about just the small technical details, like having earplugs at minimum, or headphones so that they don't get echo and all those sorts of things. Very important, but practice is the best way. And, you know, the Hangouts on Air, the apps keep changing, so you do need to stay up to date with what's going on with those apps, and whether you wish to include or exclude them from the way that you actually produce your Hangout on Air.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. I think that that's a really valuable point. If you are taking on production and planning of Hangouts on Air yourself, for your organization, for your business, a lot of time just to practice, a lot of time to try and break it and to test things out. As Zara says, the Hangout, the apps that Google launches, most of them are not created by Google. They're created by outside companies to work with Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and so they don't always play well together. You really need to test for yourself and decide if it's something that works for you, if it's something that works for your audience, and if it fits with the strategy and the purpose of the Hangout on Air that you're creating. Michael, I think you had some really good things to say about practice, and of course, coming from a musician's background, you know all about practicing.
Yes, I'm known as in the room the slave driver. I make sure everyone is ready. Ready. I don't tolerate it because, that's just what it takes. If you want to reach the top, you have to act like you want it. You have to represent it. And in our Hangouts, there's a lot more than just having the voice go, microphones. There's an actual live performance instruments. If it is not set up properly from the board, it will sound like someone is filming you from the phone. So our sound guy and us have a lot of knowledge on how to sync HD camera footage with actual sound from the board. And our mixer is very talented on mixing the music to make it sound as if they're watching television. And this is very key, because if you want a consistent amount of viewers, if you want followers, you want people to watch this thing, appearance is great. I mean, that you want to appear larger than life, but if you sound like, I'm not going to say the word, no one's going to watch you. So it's key, not only in that aspect, to have a great mix through your board and know what you're doing, but another key is that, as to the slave driver reference, is there's no way to fix a mess up in your band. There's no way to overdub a sound at all. There's, because you have a lot of live performances where, oh, they messed up a little bit, let's fix it. No, this is, if you mess up, your audience hears it. So in the band room, be sure to practice your parts at home, and when you get to the band room, rehearse with the band. Be organized. I don't believe in, oh, let's learn it in the band room and waste time. No, so it's very huge in a live musical performance, because there's only a lot of window of time that you have to get your point across, and every little detail counts. So it's definitely a lot.
And I find that is similar for myself with Hangouts on Air. You can't know what will happen during the live broadcast, but there is a lot. It's a limited window of time that you have to plan out all of the details under the sun that you could possibly imagine, how to make this an incredible experience for your audience, for your viewers, whether they're live or later. And the practice is key. But one thing that I do want to point out is that you can't really separate the breaking situations from the big deal hangouts. You do have to try and schedule some practice and some test hangouts where you're fine breaking it, where you have no makeup on and you don't want anyone to watch it, so you force it to be a private video. You want to have those scheduled in your time so that you're taking the time just to explore and you're not under any pressure. But for me, in my experience, the biggest lessons learned have always come from the crap that can happen during your live broadcast. And I think that is the most valuable practice. You have to put yourself in the real situation of the Hangout on Air, because a test in advance of your Hangout on Air is not quite a real test of the situation or of your ability to deal with it. The real test comes when you are live, when you are performing. And that's where it just comes out of an experience, makes you much more comfortable, and it brings you to the point where you don't have to think about every single small detail every time. You can start to play around with the feeling and the length and the timing and even the conversation content of your Hangouts, and you can start to test what really works for you. Okay, so sorry, did anybody else want to jump in on preparation?
Well, I just wanted to add one thing about the sound quality and the visual quality, and that is that if you need to make a choice, especially if you're having bandwidth issues or something like that, that the sound quality is the most important element more important than the visual. So, you know, if you need to go a little fuzzy because you're out in the country and you don't have a lot of bandwidth, I've been on this show with someone who had that issue, that the sound is the most important thing, especially for post-production when it stays live on YouTube and for any other audio segments that you might want to have. So I just wanted to add that so folks would know that.
And it's a really good point. It is, Zara is absolutely 100% correct. People will watch a video that doesn't have perfect video quality as long as they can hear it, as long as they can listen to it. And when you produce video conversation, especially video chat, that is unscripted, that people can just listen to and not actually be watching slides or having to look at detailed presentation notes, that gives you the opportunity then to take, like the library of content that Paula was talking about creating for Bruce Clay, gives you the opportunity to really repurpose the entire library of videos and of conversations that you create. And not only can you repurpose it into a podcast, which is a really popular way of extending the audience on your Hangout conversations, is to distribute it through iTunes and through the podcast store. It's really easy just to strip out the audio from the Hangout conversations that you create and then launch as a podcast as frequently as you want. You could also, of course, clip out not only the audio, but you can take clips of audio and video through a long period of Google Plus Hangout on-air conversations that you've had and create a whole new product for sale. If you're using Hangouts on Air to create either a musical experience like for Lawless Hearts, or to create thought leadership for yourself as an expert in your field and in your niche, one of the things that you can do is then take a lot of those conversations and see where's the real learning, where's the really valuable information that I can share with people, and is this something that I can use to create an info product that I can then launch and monetize later. And that's something that I really like to play around with and explore, is things like licensing Hangouts on Air and distributing them through much wider audiences on a paid basis after recording, which is much more like traditional TV. And Molly, you had a great point in the chat. Do you want to just share that as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that anytime that you're hosting a Hangout, it's really best practices to hardline your internet connection versus a wireless connection. I found this out the hard way when I hosted my first Partners Connect. We had a local event where some of the Google partners here locally in Jacksonville, Florida, we met up at a restaurant and decided, hey, well, if we're all going to get together, why not throw together an HOA real quick? And so we did, and we had some technical issues with audio, the streaming. Since then, I've just found for myself that when you hardline your internet connection versus using wireless, it just presents a more user-friendly experience for anyone. And if anyone can learn from my mistake, you know, to go ahead and hardline your HOA versus using a wireless connection, that would be my little tidbit of tips, so to speak, for best practices when you host an HOA.
I tend to agree. I think it's difficult. Frequently it's difficult for people, even someone like myself. I have no way of hardwiring when I'm at home. And I generally work from home, so if I wanted, like for an important Hangout on Air, an important event like today, what I did was I found a location sponsor and a tech startup company in Toronto that I've known for a number of years through the lean startup community here in Toronto, B-Notions, has come on as my location sponsor and given me not only computers to use and a quiet room and a hard line to the internet. I knew that reaching out to a technology company would help. But I tend to agree. It's just not always possible. So if you are doing a really important event, you want to I guess, heed my story, my learning, in that I only realized on last week, I think it was about a week ago on Monday, that I reached out to Molly and said, do you think you can help me out and get me in touch with someone at Google? And we were too late. That's the honest truth. I don't think that there is anything that you can't do with your production of Hangouts on Air, but if you give yourself enough time, you'll allow people to help you with your Hangout. And in this case, we didn't give them enough time, right, Molly?
Actually, just as of this morning, I heard from Todd Boxer, who's my connection there at the Google Toronto office, and it was a day late, a dollar short. If we had contacted him maybe a week ago, absolutely, we would have been at the Google office in Toronto. He did, by way of email, say that yes, they do have private rooms available. So next time, let's do it. Let's do it at the Google Toronto office.
So there's a good likelihood you'll see me broadcasting my future Hangouts on Air even from Google Office, but it's something that you can look for your own Hangouts. Just make sure that what I see a lot of people join Hangouts really from their desk and from a desktop computer, which is more often likely to be hardwired into the internet if you work in an office location. That desktop computer is usually the location that you can best use for your Hangout on Air. And if you can't connect with your computer, if you can't hardwire to the internet, then my suggestion is that you do what I did, which is ask people, I just need a desk with a computer on it that is already hardwired to the internet, because all I have to do is sit down and make sure that with a Chrome browser installed, I log into my Google, and then my whole business is there with access to me in the cloud, and I'm already connected on someone else's machine. Okay, so we're coming up right near the end of the Hangout today, near the end of the amount of time that we had allotted for this Hangout, and I appreciate everyone who's watched so far. I do want to skip to the last section where we were talking with the panel guests, and really just sort of wrap things up in the conversation and make sure that if there was anything really key that you wanted to bring out and point out to the audience or bring their attention to, that now would be the opportunity to drive them back to your community or your website and let people know what it is that you're working on right now that we haven't had the opportunity to mention yet. And I'll go first to Molly.
Yeah, sure. I can say for myself, I'm currently working on several different projects for my clients. Working with Stephen, with his organization, Music and Film, Lawless Hearts, several other clients that I'm working on websites for. In addition to that, I am actively participating in the Google Partners community as an ambassador and the Google Small Business community as an advisor, where I jump in and I help people. That's kind of my mantra in life, that if you put it out there, it'll come back to you threefold. And that more or less is one of the reasons why I think we actually cross paths. Debbie is I'm out there actively just trying to help people out when I can. And I think if you do that, genuinely, that ultimately you'll see positive results. I can say for myself, if I had to touch upon a couple of points that I find important with HOAs, is the importance of using social media marketing after the HOA. Certainly attending live event is ultimately the goal we want to accomplish, but sometimes people can't make it. And by taking that YouTube link and promoting it via social media, blog posts, putting it on your website, I think that creates another opportunity to get more exposure on that Hangout. And lastly, I would say that to optimize the Hangout to its maximum potential would be to take advantage of entering a description into the Hangout and typing keywords into the YouTube Hangout, to where, as you mentioned, when somebody types a specific subject, just like I did when I typed, how do you host a Hangout, when I was doing research, I found your article. That's why I'm here right now. That really is, to me, the power of the internet and social media marketing, is you can take a concept of your own and market it, broadcast it, and create an audience. And when you're able to do that and your audience takes your content and shares it with their network, that's something I call the ripple effect, where you literally can reach a whole new base of people that you never would have met. So that's my takeaway on Google HOAs.
Did you describe what the hurls are?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, Hangouts in real life is something that it's been around. I mean, people have been tossing that term around for a couple of years now. But for myself, when the Google partners, we had an event here locally. It was called the Space Coast Tech event. I attended, and one of the Google partners reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you mind, showing up and showing some support?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely." So I showed up, and when we were at the event, he asked, "Well, what do you think about hosting a meeting where all the local Google partners can get together?" I said, "That's a great idea." And he goes, "Well, how often do you think we should do it?" And I thought maybe quarterly would be best, just because we're all busy, we're running our business, and it takes a lot of time to stop your schedule and go and meet with a group of people. So we are doing quarterly meetings, which basically for me, it started the concept of, well, if we're going to meet in real life, why not do an HOA about it? So that way, not only do my local partners benefit from it, but we can actually take that HOA and post it to the Google Partners community. Or for that matter, small businesses, they can do live HOAs, and they can in turn post it to their networks or to the Google small business community. So for me, it's just about engagement. HOAs is yet another tool that you can use to get the word out about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, who else had some last thoughts to share? Zara?
Yes, HOAs are just a wonderful way for a business to build an online presence. And the first event that you do, I just want to encourage people, because the first event that you do may not have a huge audience. I know my first HOA, I had 3 live participants, but then I had 3 people watch on the YouTube channel afterwards, and somebody in Norway said, "Oh, what a great HOA, I'm sending it to all my friends." And you just never know, and you need to be patient with having the word go out. HOAs too are a great way to build your community, both through the audience and also through the guests that you invite onto your show. And for other people who are thinking about starting an HOA or an HOA series, I do have to say that we were talking earlier about inviting influencers and having them as guests on your show. Just ask. You'll be amazed.
Yeah. I tend to agree. There's no real reason to ask, how do you get celebrities and influencers onto your show? The truth of the matter is, if they're influential to you, if they're a celebrity to you, if they're fascinating to you, you have all the knowledge and all the content that you need to reach out to them in a way that provides value to them. And when you ask someone in a way of making them an offer of value, I'm doing this hangout and you will benefit by participating in these ways with what you're trying to achieve, what I can see you're trying to achieve in your business, then even if they have to say no, and there's millions of reasons why they would have to say no, they're not scheduled, their manager won't let them take things, gigs that they're not getting paid for, all sorts of different things. Maybe they're just not comfortable with Hangouts yet. If you make it to them as an offer of value, they can turn you down for those reasons and still feel really good about you having reached out to them. So I find even just inviting people onto my Hangouts on air helps me develop stronger relationships, even if they have to say no.
I agree with that, and the networking ability through a Hangout is something that can really put a face on your brand. Whether or not you have Guy Kawasaki as your first guest, I would just encourage you to start doing it. You just never know how much fun it is until you do it. I remember the first time I had a guest on, afterwards we were both just laughing. It was really fun to be face-to-face online. And again, it does build up an audience over time. And in our case, it builds up a library of really good resources for people. And that's, you know, Bruce Clay is all about resourcing the community. But whatever your goal is, I think you can find a way that video and Hangouts in particular can be part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I like to end in my part, our brand, Lawless Hearts, a band, a lifestyle. I don't know if y'all see the logo on the little messenger, but that's a trademark of who we are, and these Hangouts enable an audience that doesn't get the ability to come see us perform live. We've been to Europe. We're planning to go to Asia, and the UK soon. And this gives them the ability to say, if they don't have the money to come see you perform, or they don't have the access to come see you perform, it gives them a huge amount of access to what you are. And I think the fans would be so appreciative, of that. I mean, because in terms of giving that, you do receive payment in the end. Yes. They support you. You may not see the initial. Your whole goal is not. If your goal is getting so much money, then you're wrong. You should engage your follower and build the followers, build the supporters who are long life supporters, and the money will come as a result. That's the whole, So as a star, like a guest on, we were actually talking to Slash for a while to be Slash at Guns N' Roses. Yeah. He was gonna be on our one at the show. He was gonna come and play like last. We kind of like open up for him and bring his followers and stuff. And he's on tour with his new record and everything. So maybe in the future we can have him as an entity on there. So just work our way up. But this is definitely give us the advantage to engage our fans around the world. So it happens. It just takes time. I'm glad I'm 21. I'm glad I'm young. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, you've got a long time to develop it. But I can say as well that that's one of the things that really surprised me about Hangouts on Air is that it takes time to achieve the business results that you are looking for. And certainly if you're looking for an audience volume, if you're looking for a number of audience to give you the results, that your show is satisfactory or a success, that is something that takes a long time. But the relationships, if you launch your Hangout on Air with the people and you invite them either as featured guests or as panel participants, the people who are the most influential within your business, who you would benefit the most from strengthening your relationship with them, then invite them onto a Hangout on Air, because you immediately bond with them in such a unique way, in such a strong way. As I mentioned, Dorie Clark, that was the first time that she had done a Hangout was with me. And so now anytime she wants to talk about Hangouts on Air in her media channels, I'm the first person who comes to mind. I certainly don't think that I'll be the only person that she ever talks about with Hangouts on Air. And I don't expect to be or want to be, but I know that not only am I the first person that comes to mind when she's talking about Hangouts on Air, but that is the same with many of my guests and with many of the people who have become the closest and most helpful and influential people within my business, the people who have become my most profitable clients and most successful clients. It usually starts with a Hangout on Air conversation, and there's something that you just can't deny about that face-to-face engagement.
I'd like to add just one quick thing that is it's on the topic of everything on forming your business from the ground up, you know. And there's a paradox that I follow. It's called the Stockdale paradox, and it's about a war veteran who this is a true story. It's a war veteran, and he was in a concentration camp with all of his fellow soldiers, and everyone was setting up, I'm going to be home by Christmas. So this, you turn in sense to your business. Oh, I'm going to reach this goal with, I'm going to be at the $100,000 level with this. I'm going to be at this and that. And he simply said to himself, I don't know when, know how, know what time, what date, but what I'm trying to prove and get across, and basically his term, I will make it home. He was the only one that made it home alive, because he never set himself up for letdowns, and he had his vision, and that's what you can turn into your hangout, to your business, that you start from the ground up and engage who you can and reach out to who you can, but know that in the end it's going to be a success no matter what, and that's what you should focus on. Not know the date, time, or anything, but it is going to happen. And that's what I follow. So it's gotten me pretty far. So
I agree 100%, and I can say, I'm sure everyone watching still can see along the panel we're all nodding our heads, and it's 100% true what you said. It's the law of attraction works in that you set the end result. You don't set the path. You don't know exactly what steps you're going to take to get there, or what opportunities will come your way to bring you the opportunities that you're looking to create. But when you know the end goal, and you say that I won't quit until I achieve that, then you're going to find the way to make it happen. And I think that is a really great point and a really great way to end the conversation today. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who watched us today. If you're interested in learning more about Celebrity Hangouts on Air from myself, or if you want to follow up with anyone who you saw on the panel today, we're joined by Michael, who's the frontman of Lawless Hearts. We have Molly, who is our Google Partners representative, Paula, who is with bruceclay.com, and Zara Altair, who is host of Actation Now, the Midweek Zap, her Google Plus Hangouts on Air show. The way that you can reach out to any of us, you can find information on my website at thesparkleagency.com. And if you want to reach out, if you want to stay in the loop, opt in at thesparkleagency.com/Forbes. And I will be happy to see your name added to that list and happy to chat with you anytime. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you soon. Next time, live on Forbes.com.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate